Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining Peace in the Pod. I'm Loretta, and I wanted to know if I could share something with you. So, a few months ago, I was struggling with trying to figure out what was going on between me and my supervisor, as far as I mentioned in a previous episode, how she was being toward me and trying to just find some peace and be able to just enjoy work again and be able to not feel bothered by her. And I was because of I was so bothered by how she was treating me, I was seeking other jobs and applying for things and after applying for several jobs, I got a few interviews. A few I still haven't received any interviews for, but I was referred. And I starting to feel like I was trapped, I was stuck, and there was nothing that I could do to get myself out of the situation that I was in with this supervisor. And I was struggling with why she was treating me the way she was. Why couldn't I get selected for another position? It was a lot of why am I stuck? Why do I feel trapped and can't seem to get out? And one day I just took a moment and I paused and I started thinking about what keeps happening over and over that I'm not realizing um, that I need to probably change. And I started evaluating that maybe I could be creating my own obstacle and just keep having to repeat something over and over until I pass the test, so to speak. So then it was me just reevaluating how I responded to certain situations. And I felt that if I just change my approach instead of the same way I've been responding, usually I get irritated, annoyed, um, I get a little aggravated of how she was, and it was just it was it was causing me to feel like bad, and I didn't like that feeling. It was just a bad energy. And I was always just fuming by the time I got off work. So I started thinking about what can I do to change this situation? Because maybe I'm causing myself to be stuck. And I started thinking about, is there something that I need to face that I haven't dealt with? And once I realized that maybe I'm not supposed to get out of this situation so soon, maybe that there is a lesson that I need to learn from this experience, this challenge in order to get to the next step. And that's when I started okay, instead of me allowing her to get me irritated, annoyed, maybe I need to find a way to channel that energy to where it doesn't get to me as much. And once I started doing that, I started doing some meditating. I started using essential oils. I would go outside and go for a walk on the trail. And I just started finding ways to release that energy and shift it into more of a positive energy. I started listening to music again. I typically only listen to music when I'm in my car, but I just started different approaches to try to see if I can get myself in a better headspace in order to not allow her to get a reaction out of me. And once I was able to do that, I started feeling a lot better throughout the days. And whenever I would engage with her, it wasn't getting that same reaction that I was initially responding with. So I say that all to say, sometimes if you're feeling stuck, maybe you need to just take a moment and look internally and see if there is something about you that you can change your response. And maybe that will release you from this cycle that you just cannot seem to get out of, this loop. And maybe just these lessons keep repeating themselves more than likely because you need to master something. You need to pass the test in order to get to the next level. So they're going to keep repeating until you approach it differently. And sometimes these life challenges, they're here to help us grow, to help develop us. And it could be to forge your spiritual strength, maybe to help you learn to set boundaries. Sometimes it's to help you discover your self-worth. And other times it could be just to help you learn how to speak your truth. Regardless of what it's trying to teach you, there's a lesson that needs to be learned. So we just need to take a moment, pause, and change our perspective on how we're handling a situation and try to respond differently from how we've been handling it. And I think if we approach it that way, we'll see a different outcome. So we're not always necessarily stuck. And if we are, we probably are the ones who are causing ourselves to be stuck. We're on an obstacle and don't even know it. Sometimes we can be pushed into a different direction from where we currently are, and we're resisting it. We're fighting it because it's uncomfortable. It's not what we know. We want to stay in our comfort zone. And sometimes we're being pushed out of that comfort zone. And that resistance is what's causing us to feel stuck, because we're instead of just giving in and surrendering and trusting the process, we want to fight it. We want to go with what we know. And sometimes we just have to surrender. We just have to not necessarily go with the flow, but we have to go with where we feel we're being pushed. Sometimes it's not in the area that we would like to stay in. And what I'm getting at is, like, I work in human resources, but I feel like this is not where I'm supposed to remain. And I haven't been getting any selections for these jobs that I put in for that are human resources. And I haven't gotten any further interviews for the ones that I've been referred for, because maybe this is not where I'm supposed to remain in my career. I'm supposed to be doing something different. And me constantly putting in for all these positions and just, initially I was getting frustrated, like, why are they not calling me to set up an interview? Why haven't, any of the ones that I've interviewed for, like, made a selection yet? And it's just like, I had to get my mind off of that being the issue. And maybe that's just not where I'm supposed to remain. And once I started looking at it from a different perspective and started thinking like, okay, well, I've been having this feeling that I need to pursue something else. So maybe I should just kind of test it out a little bit and see if that's the direction I'm supposed to go. And so far, it does feel right. And I'm not really bothered at the fact that I haven't gotten these interviews or gotten selected for those positions. I'm more focused on the new journey that I've been pushed toward. And one of the things that I've always been a little nervous about is, and I say nervous because it just makes me uncomfortable, is public speaking. I don't like to speak in public. I don't know. It's just something about seeing everybody's eyes staring at you and then the looks on their faces. It just kind of like gets in my head, and then it makes me think like, I don't know what I'm talking about. So it just puts me in a very uncomfortable position. So I've always avoided anything that would involve me having to public speak. I mean, every now and then I would do some briefings for my job, but it was different because most of the people in the room I knew who they were. So it was like, it was a different environment. But large groups of people, just speaking in front of them just makes me extremely uncomfortable. And that's something I just hadn't like 100% gotten over. I've been working on it. I'm just not great at it. But I do feel that that's the direction I'm actually being pushed into. I've been avoiding it for so long that it's funny that like that's the direction I feel like I'm headed toward. And the more I do it, of course, the more comfortable I get with it. But it has been something that's always like just made me extremely uncomfortable. And it's just like you're thinking like, oh, what are these people thinking about me? Or, you know, it just, I don't know, it just gets in my head and just messes my whole train of thought up. I've always thought like, what if I don't do well when I'm speaking? Like, what if I can't get my words to come across right and I'm confusing people? It was always just I create these issues in my head that don't exist. And that's what freaked me out about doing any type of public speaking. So I had to get past that and focus on motivating myself that I can do whatever briefing I need to do, and just familiarize myself with whatever material I need to talk about, and then just do it. The only way to really get past your fears is to really face them. And the more I do it, the more comfortable I get. And I do feel like we're our own worst enemy when it comes to facing challenges, because sometimes we let our own fears get in the way of us progressing. And we have to get past that. We have to find a way to push ourselves, um, and get out of that comfort zone. Sometimes we're stuck because we are keeping ourselves in that position, and we have to release that control and surrender and trust the process. So, with that being said, just keep in mind that sometimes life lessons keep repeating themselves because we haven't mastered them yet. Once we get to that point where we have successfully responded the way that we need to, we will move past that point. So take a moment to pause and reflect, change your perspective, and try to respond differently from how you normally handled those situations, and you'll be pleasantly surprised of the outcome. Thank you for listening to Peace in a Pod, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again for tuning in to Peace in a Pod. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, follow, or subscribe. And also, if you know someone else that would enjoy it, please share it with them. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.